Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. We've got an hour late show here and we're running and ready to run. Or hit the ground running. I don't know. So let's get into the stories. Good, we're good. Today on Before Coffee, Boonga Boonga and Bling aside, Berlusconi's legacy is a loss of faith in Italy's political elite.
Billions of COVID-19 relief aid was stolen. Let's find out how.
Ukraine claims to have liberated 3 frontline villages in Donetsk.
Oldest of 4 siblings who survived Columbian plane crash told family their mother lived for days.
Albania is a safe country. Cross-party MPs group finds.
Noise could take years off your life, and here's how. Today on June 12th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
All right, let's get into our first story here about the infamous Italian Prime Minister who has died at the age of 86. Best known for his permatan, gaffes, and bunga bunga parties and outsized ego, Silvio Berlusconi was a proto-Trumpian populist, the man to beat in Rome for more than 2 decades and one of European politics' most controversial figures. Italy's longest-serving post-war Prime Minister Berlusconi, who has died at the age of 86, according to Italian media, held the job on 3 occasions, amassing along the way a fortune ranked by Forbes magazine's last year as the country's 4th biggest. Skilled in the art of not just weathering scandals but emerging from it with his profile and popularity enhanced, he faced prosecution more than 30 times on charges including embezzlement, false accounting, and bribing a judge. Many cases failed to go to trial, sometimes because Berlusconi changed the law under which he had been charged. Only once was he convicted of tax fraud in 2013. That led to a 4-year prison term, of which 3 were pardoned, a year's community service, and a 6-year bar from the legislative office, from which he instantly bounced back in 2019 as MEP. Saying Italy needed a charismatic self-made businessman to make it great again, Berlusconi, who had dabbled in music and sung on cruise ships before building a vast personal fortune as a property developer in Milan with his Fininvest media and TV empire, founded his conservative pro-market Forza Italy party and entered politics in late 1993. He became prime minister in January 1994, and although his center-right coalition government lasted barely 9 months before collapsing, devoted much of his first term, according to his many critics, passing laws and promoting policies that would protect him from prosecution and boost the profits of his private business.
Jesus.
Awesome.
Trump's hero. There's his hero, right?
What a hero. In his enforced 6-year absence, Italy's politics changed. Former Prime Minister's vote defected en masse to Matteo Salvini's far-right Lega, which formed an uneasy coalition with the anti-establishment Five Star Movement after the 2018 elections, in which Berlusconi's party scored 40% of the vote, down from the 37% in 2008. But the billionaire tycoon had no difficulty winning elections as MEP and returned to the national fray last year when Forza Italia entered an uneasy far-right-led coalition with Giorgio Meloni's Brothers of Italy and Salvini's Lega. Yeah, that's what pisses me off about Italy right now. Reinforcing a career-long reputation for jaw-dropping gaffes and outrageous asides, subsequently called Meloni patronizing, overbearing, arrogant, and offensive, mostly because she's a woman. No, just that he didn't say that. Boasted of his close ties with Vladimir Putin and claimed Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was to blame for his country's devastation. No one should have been overly surprised, among many other politically correct sallies. Berlusconi, I can't say it.
Berlusconi.
Also detested that the German center-left politician Martin Schulz could play a Nazi guard in a war film, reportedly called the German Chancellor Angela Merkel an unfuckable lard ass.
Wow.
Quote, that's what he said.
Donald Trump Sr., basically.
And in 2008, shocked many by describing the then U.S. President-elect Barack Obama as handsome, young, and suntanned. Handsome, young, and suntanned. The parallels with Donald Trump are striking. Both men began on real estate magnates, became media stars, and segued into politics. Both have made a point of undermining their country's established institutions, including the press and the judiciary. Rejected by their respective liberal establishments, both also have responded, despite their great wealth, with the populist tactic of portraying themselves as the true voice of the people against an out-of-touch and corrupt elite. Throughout his political career, Berlusconi's dominance of the Italian media included ownership of 3 television channels, drew justifiable accusations of conflict of interest and excess of influence. It would be wrong, however, to conclude that this was the sole explanation for his enduring success. The reason Berlusconi was constantly re-elected, bastava non votarlo, his opponents would endlessly lament. All you have to do is not vote for him. Is this that he represented a part of Italy that places money and power above justice and ethics. His legacy is likely to be not the bunga bunga parties, the bling and the vulgarity, but the Italian electorate's loss of faith in their political class, a loss that has led, ironically, to the emergence of a new generation of altogether more radical and harder right populist politicians. So, yeah, makes sense. If you love money, you love the guy who has money, even if he's, politicians should not be making money, should not be billionaires. In my opinion, they should be normal people. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where they are rich and they tell us what to do. I'll tell you a story.
From the country that gave us fascism, yes, they are really on top of it. The fascism, that is. By putting he's rich, he must know how to run the government. Yeah, he's rich from making people's lives shitty. That's what being rich is. Making other people's lives shitty, making the money, and going, hey, you got a shitty life. You wish you were me. Anyway, you got 86 years. Donald Trump, you be paying attention. You only get 86 years, dude. When you're a scumbag, that's all you get, no matter how much. 86, that's all you get. You're almost out. Stop being a scumbag. Okay, and more grifter news. How billions of COVID-19 relief aid was stolen by, this is Associated Press, Richard Lardner, Jennifer McDermott, and Aaron Kressler. So it promises to be quite long. Much of the theft was brazen. Even simple fraudsters use social security numbers of dead people and federal prisoners to get unemployment checks. Cheaters collected those benefits in multiple states, and federal loan applicants weren't cross-checked against the Treasury Department database that would have raised red flags about sketchy borrowers. Criminals and gangs grabbed the money, but so did U.S. soldier in Georgia, the pastors of a defunct church in Texas, former state lawmaker in Missouri, and a roofing contractor in Montana. All of it led to the greatest grift in U.S. history, with thieves plundering billions of dollars in federal COVID-19 relief aid intended to combat the worst pandemic in the century and to stabilize the economy in free fall. The Associated Press analysis found that fraudsters potentially stole more than $280 billion in COVID relief funding. Another $123 billion was wasted or misspent. Combined, the loss represents 10% of the $4.2 trillion U.S. government has so far disbursed in COVID relief aid. They can't still be giving that shit out. The number is certain to grow as investigators dig deeper into thousands of potential schemes. How could so much be stolen? Investigators and outside experts say the government, in seeking quickly spend billions in relief aid, conducted too little oversight during the pandemic's early stages and instituted too many restrictions on applicants. In short, they say the grift was way too easy. I mean, look who put it into effect.
Yeah, right.
Himself. The guy said, money for my rich friends, pay me back. We don't fucking care. We don't give a damn if you pay us back. Here is this sort of endless pot of money that anyone could access, said Dana Futcher, chief of the Fraud and White Collar Crime Unit, U.S. Attorney's Office in Eastern District of Washington. Folks kind of fooled themselves into thinking that was a socially acceptable thing to do, even though it wasn't legal. The U.S. government has charged more than $23 let's do it this way. 2,230 defendants with pandemic-related fraud crimes and conducting thousands of investigations. Most of the looted money was swiped from 3 large pandemic relief initiatives launched by the Trump administration and inherited by President Biden. Those programs are designed to help small businesses and unemployed workers survive the economic upheaval caused by the pandemic. The pilfering is wide, but not always as deep as eye-catching headlines about cases involving many millions of dollars. But all that theft, big and small, illustrates an epidemic of scams and swindles all-time America's grappling with overrun hospitals, school closures, and shuttered business. Since the pandemic began early in 2020, more than 1.3 million people in the U.S. have died from COVID-19, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. Michael Horowitz, U.S. Justice Department Inspector General, who chairs the Federal Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, told Congress that the fraud is clearly in the tens of billions of dollars, and many may eventually exceed 100 billion. Horowitz told the AP he was sticking with that estimate, but he won't be certain about the number until he gets more solid data. I'm hesitant to go too far out on how much there is, but it's clearly substantial, and the final counting is still at least a couple of years away. Mike Galdo, the U.S. Justice Department Acting Director of COVID-19 Fraud Enforcement, said it's an unprecedented amount of fraud. Before leaving office, Trump approved emergency aid measures totaling $3.2 trillion, according to the figures of Pandemic Response Accountability Committee. Biden's 2021 American Rescue Plan authorizes spending of another $1.9 trillion, and about a fifth of the $5.2 trillion has yet to be paid out, according to the committee's most recent accounting. Never has so much federal emergency aid been injected in the U.S. economy so quickly. The largest rescue package in American history, the U.S. Comptroller General Gene Dordaro told Congress. So, the enormous scale of that has obscured multi-billion-dollar mistakes. An $132 billion IRS program, for example, succeeded 99% of the time in getting economic stimulus checks to the proper taxpayers, according to the agency. Nevertheless, that 1% failure rate translated into nearly $8 billion going to ineligible individuals. Treasury Department sold the AP. So, the grifters are out there, and if you're an honest person, maybe you'll put a smile on your face that knowing these assholes got caught. So over 2,200 of them got caught, and they're basically never be able to get any federal money ever again. A lot of them. You're committed fraud to the federal government, dude. You want a student loan? Tough shit. Want a small business loan? Tough shit. You tried to defraud the government. Well, you hope so. You hope so. Your turn.
Okay. In Ukrainian updates, Ukraine's armed forces have claimed to have liberated 3 frontline villages in Western Donetsk region almost a week after the launch of the counteroffensive operations. Yes, the famous, deeply planned... Oh god, why is my phone going off? Okay. Oh yeah, I have to do yoga, that's why. Sorry.
You're on your yoga mat already?
Yeah, my yoga mat's already ready. Right. The famous counteroffensive that was supposed to be happening in the spring has finally gone off. And soldiers are shown in video footage raising the Ukrainian flag over the village of Vladodantne, south of the town of Belgia Novosilka, one of the main axes of the counteroffensive so far. Troops from another brigade filmed themselves with their unit's banner in Neskuchne. Later on Sunday, the Deputy Defense Minister Hanna Maliar said a third village, Makarovka, had been taken. It was believed to have been retaken on Sunday morning. In the areas where our troops are on the defensive, no position was lost. Maliar said on Telegram messaging app, they are the first settlements that the armed forces have officially confirmed as liberated since the start of the counteroffensive at a week earlier. Another settlement further south along the same road, Eurozine, was being fiercely contested according to the Russian military bloggers. By the way, we didn't move our main forces yet, a Ukrainian officer texted from the southern front, so there are grounds to believe in the best. In total, in 1 week of assault operations around the Velkia Novosilka, Ukrainians managed to liberate around 95 square kilometers of ground, a Ukrainian military reporter blogging under the title of Reporting from Ukraine wrote. The advance south from the Velika Novaya Silka represents the most significant gains of the counteroffensive to date. Ukrainian forces still have some way to go before they reach Russia's main fortified defensive line. On Sunday, railway lines supplying Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia region and Crimea were reportedly blown up in two sabotage attacks. One on a railway bridge at Yakamivka in Zaporizhzhia and another in Kirovskoye in Crimea, where a freight locomotive was said to have been damaged. Along with the signs that the counteroffensive was beginning to gain momentum, at least in one area, there was more evidence on Sunday of the rifts in Russia's military leadership. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group mercenary organization, rejected a move by the defense minister Sergei Shoigu to put Wagner fighters under the ministry control by ordering all volunteer detachments to sign contracts with the ministry by the end of the month. Wagner will not sign any contracts with Shoigu. Across the whole front, progress has been slow and grueling for the Ukrainians in the first week of the counteroffensive, as Russian soldiers generally held to their ground in heavily fortified and mined positions. But military analysis said Kyiv had so far committed a fraction of the 12 brigades it had held in reserve. ISW reported that the area around Velika Novosilka was one of at least four main directions of Ukrainian attack over the weekend, the other being around Bilohorivka in Luhansk and about 6 miles west of Luhansk city, Bakhmut in the northern Donetsk, and western Zaporizhzhia, particularly south of the town of Orkiv. They're all over the place, but they're all mostly south. On the Black Sea, meanwhile, media in Moscow reported that a Russian naval intelligence collection vessel had come under attack from 6 Ukrainian drone boats while it was on patrol guarding the Turk Stream and Blue Stream undersea gas pipelines carrying Russian gas exports to Turkey and Europe. The report said that Ryazovye had been able to propel the attack, and the video footage posted on social media showed guns being fired from the ship's deck at small unmanned boats, one of which exploded. So, there are believed to be far more deaths on the Russian-held left bank of the Dnipro, where many people in rich towns and villages were left to fend for themselves. Kyiv has demanded the intervention of international humanitarian agencies. UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffiths said on Friday that his office had been in touch with Russian authorities seeking permission for safe access to the lines. Asked on Sunday if there had been any progress in the discussion, Harry Kaneko, a spokesperson for the UN Office for Nation Affairs, said only efforts continue with both parties to ensure that the critical aid can be delivered to the flood-affected areas. Kyiv has been coordinating with the UN over relief supplies since the dam's collapse, and Ukrainians have tried to evacuate people trapped on the left bank, despite coming under fire from Russian positions. In an attack on one boat, 3 people reported to have been killed and 10 injured. Ruslan Strelets, Ukrainian's environmental protection minister, said that the dam's destruction, widely believed to have been an act of sabotage by Russian forces who had control of the hydroelectric station at the site, had deprived 1 million Ukrainians of drinking water. That's our update on Ukraine. On to your story.
Go home team. Let's go into a let's call it a enlightening story. What's the word? Heartwarming, perhaps. Is a 40-day survival of 4 indigenous children who survived 40 days in the Amazon jungle after a plane crash. This is from Marco Alvarez from AP. Bogota, Colombia. The 4 indigenous children who survived 40 days in the Amazon jungle after the plane crash have shared limited but harrowing details of their ordeal with their family, including their mother, who survived the crash for days before she died. The siblings, 13, 9, 4, and 1, are expected to remain for at least 2 weeks in the hospital receiving treatment after their rescue Friday, but some are already speaking and wanting to do more than lie in bed, relatives said. Manuel Ranolk, father of the two youngest children, told reporters outside the hospital Sunday that the oldest of the four siblings, 13-year-old Leslie Giacomari Mukutoi, had described to him how their mother was alive for about 4 days after the plane crashed on May 1st in the Columbian jungle. Renault said before she died, the mother would likely have told them go away, apparently asking them to leave the wreckage site to survive. He provided no more details. Authorities had not said anything about this version. Details of what happened to the youngsters and what they did have been emerging gradually in small pieces, so it could take some time to have a better picture of their ordeal, during which the youngest son, Kristen, turned 1 year old. Henry Guerrero, the indigenous man who was part of the research group, told reporters that the children were found with 2 small bags containing some clothes, a towel, a flashlight, 2 cell phones, a music box, and a soda bottle. He said they used the bottle to collect water in the jungle, and he added that after they were rescued, the youngsters complained of being hungry. They wanted to eat rice pudding and they wanted to eat bread.
No kidding.
Fidencio Valencia, the child's uncle, told the media outlet Noticias Caracol that the children were starting to talk, and one of them said they hid in tree trunks to protect themselves in a jungle area filled with snakes, animals, and mosquitoes. He said they were exhausted. They were at least already eating a little bit, but they are eating, he said after visiting them at the military hospital in Bogota, Colombia. On Saturday, Defense Minister Ivan Velasquez said that the children were being rehydrated and couldn't eat food yet.
Yeah.
Later, Valencia provided new details of the children's recovery 2 days after the rescue. They've been drawing. Sometimes they need to let off steam. He said the family members are not talking a lot with them to give them space and to recover from the shock. The children were traveling with their mother from the Amazonian village of Araraquara to the town of San Jose del Guiver when the plane went down. The Cessna single-engine propeller plane was carrying 3 adults and 4 children. When the pilot declared an emergency due to engine failure, the small aircraft fell off the radar a short time later and the search for survivors began. Daryl Jovenel Mukatoy, another uncle, told the media that one of his kids wanted to start walking. Uncle, I want shoes, I want to walk, but my feet hurt, Mukatoy said the children told him. The only thing I want, I told the kid, when you recover, we'll play soccer, he said. Authorities said the family member said the siblings survived eating cassava flour and seeds, and that some familiarity with the rainforest fruits were also key to their survivals. The kids are members of the Huartoto indigenous group. After being rescued on Friday, the children were transported in a helicopter to Bogota and to the military hospital, where President Gustavo Petro, government military officials, as well as family members, met with the children on Saturday. An Air Force video released Friday showed a helicopter using lines to pull the youngsters up because it couldn't land in the dense rainforest where they were found. The military on Friday tweeted pictures showing a group of soldiers and volunteers posing with the children who were wrapped in thermal blankets. One of the soldiers held a bottle to the smallest children's lips. So we got us another, 6 paragraphs. Okay. General Pedro Sanchez, who was in charge of the rescue, however, said the children were found 5 kilometers, which is 3 miles, from the crash site in a small forest clearing. He said the rescue teams had passed within 20 to 50 meters of where the children were found on a couple occasions, but had missed them. 2 weeks after the crash, on May 16th, a search team found the plane in a thick patch of the rainforest and recovered the bodies of the 3 adults on board, but the small children were nowhere to be found. Soldiers and helicopters dropped boxes of food into the jungle, hoping that it would help to sustain the children. Planes flying over the area fired flares to help search crews on the ground at night, and rescuers used speakers that blared messages recorded by the siblings' grandmother telling them to stay in one place. So, Luis Acosta, coordinator of the Indigenous Guard, was part of the search in the Amazon, said the children were found as part of what was called a combination of ancestral wisdom and Western wisdom between a military technique and a traditional technique. The Colombian government, which is trying to end internal conflicts in the country, has highlighted joint work of the military and indigenous children in finding the children. So good luck, Colombia, with your pursuit of being a real country that isn't always in a civil war.
Yay!
You're sorry.
What luck, you know? 4 adults all perished, but the children, okay, for the
The
most
other
part.
article was hailing the 13-year-old for being resourceful and learning all the lessons of, survival in the jungle and taking care of her siblings.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and people
Yeah.
don't know that if you haven't eaten for a couple days, you can't eat because
What can I eat? Yeah, what
you'll
can I
kill
eat?
yourself from eating because your
I
stomach
do
is
know.
so empty. You actually have to slowly eat, start consuming. You can't just start gorging yourself as soon as you get out of the 4 days of not eating or whatever. You can't do that. You'll die.
Luckily, I know you can eat a pine tree. So.
All right. In European news, we've got Albania being labeled a safe country. And from people who flee from there to seek sanctuary in the UK should not be granted asylum, according to a report published on Monday from a cross-party group of MPs. A report from the House Affairs Select Committee found little evidence to indicate significant numbers of Albanian nationals were at risk in their own country, but accepted that some of Albanians' nationals were at risk. Were making asylum claims. Mainly women had been trafficked. It is recommended that the group should be returned to Albania only if appropriate safeguards are in place. The committee decided to look at Albanian arrivals to the UK due to the large spike in numbers last year. In 2022, more than a quarter of the 45,000 people who crossed the channel in small boats came from the country, and most claimed asylum. In the space of a year, the number of Albanians arriving in the UK by this route had jumped from 800 to 12,000. The reason for the steep rise are unclear, and numbers have dropped significantly in recent months. Critics of small boat arrivals insist Albania is a safe country. The committee agreed, and the report points out that the country is not at war and is a candidate to join the EU. There's no clear basis for the UK to accept thousands of asylum applications from Albanian citizens, the report states. Until June 2022, 51% of asylum claims from Albanians were initially accepted. 9 countries, including Germany, accepted no asylum claims from Albania. The report urges the Home Office to explain why the asylum grant rates, particularly for women, have been so high. The committee report states that the key driver of migration from Albania to the UK is economic, and that improved awareness of work visa programs would support formalized migration, providing an alternative to people smuggling gangs. Only 325 work visas were granted to Albanian nationals in the first 9 months of 2022. Committee chair, the Labour MP Dame Diana Johnson, said, "Such a substantial sudden increase in asylum claims from a seemingly peaceful country understandably raised concerns. Changes in migration will inevitably place strain on any system, but the government must do much more to ensure it can better handle these stresses. Most importantly, it must improve the speed of decision-making and clear the backlog." David Neal, a legal researcher with expertise in Albanian migration, provided evidence to the committee, said the report was very disappointing and ignored his evidence that many Albanians were fleeing to escape a cycle of revenge that can pit families against each other over generations. Contrary to the committee's assertion, Albania is far from the safe country. As I made clear in my written evidence, one of the major causes of Albanians fleeing Albania is a blood feud. Existing country guidance case law makes clear that Albanian state does not generally provide an adequate protection for victims of blood feuds, and it is clear in my view that the evidence relied on by the Home Office is insufficient to justify departing from this. He added that the risk of re-trafficking from trafficking victims returned to Albania was significant. Returning Albanians summarily without substantive considerations of their claims will lead to many genuine refugees being returned to the country where they in fact face further persecution. A Home Office spokesperson said the government's priority is stopping the boats. Last year, 28% of those who arrived by small boats to the UK were from Albania, a safe European country and a NATO ally, placing further strain on our asylum system. We've worked closely with the Albanian government to disrupt criminal gangs and deter illegal migration. There's no such thing as illegal migration, fuck you. My own editorial. In the 5 months that led to the end of May, Albanian small boat arrivals are down 90% on the last year and has returned to 18,000 migrants and foreign criminals back to Albania. Thanks to changes to our asylum system, We have gone from accepting 1 in 5 Albanian asylum claims to just 1 in 50, in line with the European countries. We will carefully consider the report and respond in due course. Maybe somebody should just pass a law to, like, trafficking victim asylum or something. I don't know. If it's it seems like a big problem, and ignoring it is just cruel. You know, it's not, people don't ask to be trafficked. That's not a thing. That's victim blaming. It's their fault, so.
Yeah, the people making all the money. People making all the money are eventually, right, maybe someday caught. But meanwhile, the victims are the people that just keep getting shuffled back and forth. Hey, noise. You worry about noise? You're like me. You really appreciate peace and quiet. Noise could take years off your life, and here's how. They say here in the New York Times, according to, oh wow, this has a lot of articles, a lot of authors. Emily Baumgartner, Jason Cahill, Eleanor Lutz, Josephine Sedgwick, Ramsey Taylor, Noah Throop, and Josh Williams all got together. A lot of pictures, so we're going to spare you that. On a spring afternoon in Bankers Hill, San Diego, the soundscape is serene. Sea breeze rustles through the trees and neighbors chat pleasantly across driveways. Except for about every 3 minutes, when a jet blazes overhead with ear-piercing roar. The growing body of research shows that this kind of chronic noise, which rattles the neighborhood over 280 times a day and more than 150,000 times a year, is not just annoying, it's a largely unrecognized health threat that has increased the risk of hypertension, stroke, heart attacks worldwide, including for more than 100 million Americans. We have all been told to limit the volume of our headphones to protect our hearing, but it's a relentless din of daily life in some places that can have a lasting effect throughout the body. Anyone that lives in a noisy environment, like the neighborhoods near Brooklyn, may feel they have accepted the cacophony, but data shows the opposite. Prior noise exposure primes the body to overreact, amplifying negative effects. Even people who live in relatively peaceful rural and suburban communities can be at risk. The sudden blare of trains that run periodically through Delo, Mississippi, population of 400, can be especially jarring to the body because there's little ambient noise to drown out the jolt. Thinking about it, it's like crickets, 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 and then for the next day, crickets, 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 right? I'm imitating the video I just saw.
Yeah.
We went to neighborhoods in rural Mississippi, New York City, suburban California, New Jersey to measure residents' noise exposure and interview them about the commotion of their lives. We consulted more than 30 scientists, reviewed thousands of pages of research, policy exam of pathology and etymology of noise. What noise does inside your body? A siren shrills, a dog barks, engines thrum, jackhammers clack. Enters your body through your ears, but is relayed to the stress detector in the center of your brain. The area called the amygdala triggers a cascade of reactions in your body. The amygdala is chronically overactivated by noise. The reactions begin to produce harmful effects. The endocrine system can overreact, causing much cortisol, adrenaline, and other chemicals that course through your body. I had some adrenaline last night. I went into shock when I stepped on that freaking nail and pulled it out of my foot. I went and sat by the tub, stuck my foot in some warm water with Epsom salts, and got all shaky and shivery, cold sweats.
Yeah,
went to the hospital.
It's a hell of a drug.
The sympathetic nervous system can also become hyperactivated, quickening the heart rate, raising blood pressure, and triggering the production of inflammatory cells. Over time, changes can lead to inflammation, hypertension, and plaque buildup in arteries, including the risk of heart disease, heart attacks, and stroke. To understand this pathway, researchers broke it down. They scanned the brains of people who listen to unpleasant sounds, styrofoam rubbing, nails in a chalkboard, dentist drill, and watched as the amygdala is activated. They also strapped blood pressure monitors and noise dosimeters onto auto assembly plant workers doing a shift to see their blood pressures and heart rates rise with their noisy exposure. To stimulate relentless nights, scientists played dozens of sporadic recordings of passing trains and planes overhead in healthy volunteers' bedrooms, recordings taken of real disruptions of people's homes. They found that the next morning the volunteers had higher adrenaline in adrenaline levels, stiffened arteries, and spikes in plasma proteins that indicate inflammation. When researchers analyzed the brain scans and health records of hundreds of people in Massachusetts General Hospital, they made a stunning discovery. Those who lived in areas with high levels of transportation noise were more likely to have highly activated amygdalas, arterial inflammation, and within 5 years, major cardiac events. The associations remained even after research is adjusted for other environmental and behavioral factors that could contribute to poor cardiac health, like air pollution, socioeconomic factors, and smoking. In fact, noise may trigger immediate heart attacks. Well, that's happened, definitely. Higher levels of aircraft noise exposure in 2 years preceded nighttime deaths have been tied to heart-related mortality. How loud is too loud? Sound is often measured on a scale of decibels, or dB, in which the near total silence is 0, and a firecracker exploding within a meter of a listener is about 140 dB. We used a professional device called a sound level meter to record the decibel levels of common sounds and environments. Let's see, we got a quiet room, passing freight train, that's 27 dB. Busy street, 69, hair dryer, 87, freight train, 117. 120 is at the level where you start to lose your hearing. The difference between how loud the train sounds to the ear is much more dramatic. The train sounds more than 450 times as noisy because of the comparison, and well, it's just not a definite, easy mathematical equation. dBs is not. So why do you think, 120 dBs is only twice as much as 69? That's not the way it works, man.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
50 times more noisy. The difference between all of the train is 500 times more noisy than the quiet room. That's because the decibel scale is logarithmic, not linear. With every 10 dB increase, the sense of loudness here doubles. That means regular, that's not quite accurate. That means regular exposure to even more decibels noise, moderate levels can trigger. Every 10 dB is a 10 dB increase, and every 2 is a 3 dB increase. Every 2 is a 3 dB increase. Anyway, it works different on different scales.
Math.
According to the World Health Organization, why am I getting into this? Average road traffic noise above 53 dB or average aircraft noise exposure above 45 dB are associated with adverse health effects. Nearly a third of U.S. population lives in areas exposed to noise levels at least 40 dB, according to preliminary analysis based on models of road and rail and aircraft noise in 2020 from the Department of Transportation. And that is some good information about noise. And we get it here because we're in the flight path of a naval air base here. And they fly really low here sometimes, as you probably remember. Your story?
I mean, I'm currently living under the path of a major airport, national airport, so I know exactly what that's like as well.
But the landings are the worst. Takeoffs and landings, those are really noisy.
Yeah.
Right in that into that runway, that's got to be just hell. Go ahead.
All right, in local news, instead of covering cultural news, I want to cover some local news because on Friday evening / Saturday morning, there was a huge fire in a village not so far away from me, Terrar. And we're now reading an article from NOS about what the people have been saying about it, because it was huge. It was a huge fire. There's even a photo here from a plane. Billowing smoke. Local residents and owners of buildings at the business park in Terrar, where a fire broke out yesterday, have difficulty comprehending what happened. Clouds of smoke can still be seen due to the post extinguishing, but it is becoming increasingly clear how much damage the fire has caused. I've never experienced anything so intense. Peter van der Pil lives near the business park. Plumes of smoke are clearly visible from his garden. If the wind had been the other way yesterday, I don't think our house would have been there anymore. There was so much immense heat and flames, he says, to Omroep West. The fire started around 9:30 p.m. Friday night in a plastics company. and then spread to other companies. Bren van Ameron's timber's business also caught fire. He is busy cleaning up today and thinks that his company has suffered a 10 million euro in damages. At Marco van der Pil's beef wholesaler, damage seems not too bad. We do have some suit damage, but the trucks are still starting. Was also able to remove a few trucks last night. Or on Friday night, sorry. This article's from Saturday, but I'm reading it today on Monday. According to the fire brigade in Terrar, it is the largest fire they have ever fought. Ingrid de Roos, spokesperson for the Holland's Midden security region, also says that she has never experienced anything like this in 25 years. Nothing compares to this. It is not yet clear how the fire started. We are really still working on the after extinguishing, says de Roos. As far as it's known, there are no casualties, which is pretty lucky because it was a huge fire. Like a whole block is just ashes. According to Mayor Robert Jan van Duin of the municipality of Nieuwkoop, which includes Terrar, the impact of the fire in the villages is major. People are sad and feel incredibly powerless. They see it happen before their own eyes, but they can't do anything. This will continue to rumble for a while. Many people came to the business park to watch the fire. The fire service says it was not bothered by the spectators, but according to the security region, it was too busy. Fire vehicles could not get through the crowd of people. It was therefore very hectic in the beginning. A police spokesperson said that units from the riot police were present to support the fire brigade and to ensure that onlookers kept at a safe distance. Cordoned off, when people became intrusive, we have to intervene. The police would have threatened with a baton. It is not clear whether people were beaten or not. Mayor Van Duin calls it unbelievable and sad that it was so busy that a baton was needed to get people away. If you're asked to leave, you just have to leave. Not everyone did that. Several media reports that the influx of people caused the fire to spread to other companies, but according to Holland's Midden security region, this could not have been prevented anyway because the fire was so large and was going to spread very quickly. The authorities say that no disturbing concentration of substances had been measured. They do warn that there may be fire residue in the air, which may have to be cleaned up with gloves. Particles of glass may also have fallen from the air, according to the fire service. These come from solar panels that were hit by the fire. These are not toxic, but they are sharp. You can carefully clean them up yourself, the fire brigade reports. Smoke may be released again today when extinguishing the fires, but according to spokesperson de Roos, there was much less than last night. People affected by smoke urged to keep windows and doors closed. Yes, I even had to close my window, even though I didn't really see any smoke or anything, but we closed our windows just in case because Terrar is pretty close, and the fire there was a lot of smoke, like billowing amount of smoke. Anyways, that's the story for me of a local fire that gladly did not kill anybody, but was very big and in the news. You're now in today's history, or in history, whatever the thing's called.
Day in history, June 12th. This day in history. Let me see. 1701, the Act of Settlement, the law that continues to regulate the succession of the throne for the United Kingdom, was passed by Parliament. 1701. That's when they decided that no more Stuarts. That's basically what they said.
Oh wow.
That's basically what it was. Exactly. There were too many Catholics in the Stuart royal family. That's when our poor cousins, well, they're still our cousins, distant cousins, whatever. In 1707, Badawar Shah, number one, won the Mughal throne in India by defeating his Azam Shah in the Battle of Jujau. Sounds like a sporting event, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. 1776, the Constitutional Convention of the Colony of Virginia adopted the Virginia Declaration of Rights, a model for the Bill of Rights, later added to the U.S. Constitution. In 1898, the Philippines, under revolutionary leader Emilio Aguinaldo, declared its independence from Spain. In 1924, George Herbert Walker Bush, the 41st president of the United States, was born. So it's his birthday. Baseball Hall of Famer In 1939, the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown was open with its inaugural class, including Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, and Honus Wagner. In 1941, American jazz pianist, composer, and bandleader Chuck Corea was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts. American, in this day, 1963, American civil rights activist Medgar Evers was fatally shot outside his home in Jackson, Mississippi. His murder received national attention and helped galvanize the movement. In 1967, in Loving versus Virginia, this U.S. Supreme Court unanimously struck down a state law that banned interracial marriage, ruling that unconstitutional under the Equal Protection Due Process of the 14th Amendment. So it took until 1967. Let's see, the Bill of Rights. Let's go back. Bill of Rights things, and by 1967, almost 200 years later, they decided, yeah, you got rights, but you can't marry somebody that has different color skin. Ha! That's no longer legal. We're gonna make it okay. All these children running around with parents that were different races were just wondering, my parent, I'm illegal, right?
Yeah, right.
What a fucking law. What a stupid fucking law based on ignorance. Never should have existed. 1981, the action-adventure film Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Harrison Ford, was released. In 1987, speaking of the Berlin Wall, Ronald Reagan told Gorbachev to tear down the wall. Basically, the only thing he ever did in office. I mean, he let his administration run roughshod over the rest of us. 1991, series of major explosions began in more Philippine news. Mount Pinatubo's biggest eruption started in this day in 1991.
Wow.
Eventually, the evacuation of all U.S. military personnel from the Philippines, and they have not gone back. 2003, American actor Gregory Peck died at the age of 17, famously played Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, among others. In 2016, the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history at the time occurred when Omar Mateen opened fire at Pulse, an LGBTQ nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing 49 people and wounding 50. Of course, that was superseded by the shooting in Las Vegas. So these records never stand for long. Unfortunately, in a featured biography, Anne Frank was born in this day in 1929. So Anne Frank, if she was alive today, would still not quite be 100. Other birthdays, David Rockefeller was born this day in 1915. If you don't remember him, he's a Rockefeller. He's rich, born rich, and
back when rich people donated, helped build stuff instead of just keeping their money to themselves.
I believe David Rockefeller's son married Richard Nixon's daughter.
Wow.
So his name was David Rockefeller, but this one seems a little bit old for Richard Nixon's daughter, born in 1915. And Boris Yeltsin was elected the first president, easily, of Russia. And this day, on 1991, it didn't last for Russia. You got your next guy you got was Putin, and now you're stuck with him. What day is it today? What day? Let's figure it out. What day? Let me get my screen up here. What day is it today? Hopefully not too many days. There's not too many. Let's see. June 12th is National Loving Day. It should be every day. It's also National Peanut Butter Cookie Day, International Falafel Day. What?
Waffles and peanut butter cookies. Sounds like a great meal.
Sounds like a nice food fight. National Red Rose Day. Don't throw red roses, they have thorns. World Day Against Child Labor.
Yeah.
Today is the World Day Against Child Labor, so give your 5-year-old a day off.
Stop letting 13-year-olds work in food processing factory.
Yeah, those kids out there driving taxis, man. Those 12-year-olds out there driving taxis. Take the day off. Take the afternoon off. Don't get carried away. International Chakacha. There's many ways you can pronounce this. C-A-C-H-A-C-A. Kachaka Day. It's a drink.
Yeah.
It's bottles of alcohol sitting here, and there's fruit in some of them, and there's dead animals in other ones. So it's
That's
some kind of
tequila.
fruit. It's some kind of wine you drink with. Well, anyway, that's what today is, June 12th.
All
That's
right,
it.
this has been Allison here from Europe. I guess talking about dead politicians and giant local fires. See you tomorrow for another long-winded news show from Before Coffee.
And hopefully tomorrow will be on time, because I won't be near death.
I don't think you were gonna die from that.
I have resurrected from my previous. Look, it's like my hospital bracelet. Resurrected. I have been resurrected, so this is officially Easter today.
All right,
Back in the saddle for November 12th.
November.
20 November.
You said November.
I'm living in the future, man, or the past. What is it? June. June. Don't laugh too hard. Take a breath. Take a breath. June 12th, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.